A warm welcome to each of the attendees attending this webinar of ours. Uh, like always, I am the one who's going to be the facilitator for this talk. And it's a purely academic talk where we have one of our own professors taking this session and also enlightening the students who are willing to take up law or have already taken up law as a career option. This is one of those most debated topics around the legal fraternity. With the advent of the course called as BBA LLB, there is so much of confusion about what kind of BBA courses are taught to the students who do BBA LLB, in what form it is taught, and why is it important for a law student to read these things. There are many misconceptions also where students feel that a student who wants to go into corporate law should only do BBA LLB, while these myths have been unraveled and we have been clearing it in many of our webinars. Here is a specific lecture today where I'm going to specifically deal with marketing and law, and who else I could think about than my great colleague Dr. Supriya. And talking about Dr. Supriya, she has many feathers to her hat, but introduction is something which is very important. So I'll go ahead and introduce her. Dr. Supriya is a marketing, advertising, and PR professional with a professional experience around across academia as well as industry. Dr. Supriya is an associate professor at BITS Law School in Mumbai, one of our most esteemed faculties, loved by the students and the team at BITS Law alike. Having worked with industries with organizations like HCL, Blue Dart, Lintas, Honeywell, and academic institutions like Symbiosis Institute of Business Management, Pune, Symbiosis Center for Management Studies, and Symbiosis School for Liberal Arts, Bennett University, which is also called as Times School of Media, and also Flame University. These are all prestigious universities where she has been amongst the best, and has been loved by students alike. She enjoys researching and understanding new trends in marketing area. She holds an MBA degree in the business management, finance and marketing and management, and a PhD in marketing management from the Savitribai Phule University, one of the most prestigious universities of this country, from Pune. Now, this is what she is, but something for which we all and the students also love here is her penchant for teaching, and also to make sure that the students love the subject that she teaches, and that is something which we call as marketing. And I have seen students in awe of her. I have always seen them around the campus talking to her. Some students discussing various facets about, how law is instrumental in terms of marketing. And she was the right choice for this lecture who came into our mind the moment we thought about that, we have to talk to the law students about this topic, which they have a lot of questions. The CLAT results are out. Students are wondering what to do, which course to take. So we were very clear that we have to come out with a lecture where Dr. Supriya is able to come and tell you that what form of marketing or what form of law works in marketing, and for which she has created this exceptional lecture where she's going to talk about few case laws. She's going to talk. It's a very interesting lecture. I will not spoil the fun, and I'll directly move on to Dr. Supriya. Ma'am, the stage is all yours now.
Yeah. Thank you, Deepu. Good evening to you and good evening to all the attendees of this lecture, the students, parents, and others who are here. Thank you for giving me the privilege to be able to speak to all of you. Thank you, Deepu, for inviting me for this session. So I'm going to dive right into the session without further ado. Law and marketing are very closely knit fields. So we see the two worlds converging when you look at brands in the marketplace, when you see the way brands are interacting with consumers, when brands are advertising. There are brand wars that go on where, two brands will look at how comparisons are being made. So if you look at business, you realize that business does not exist in a vacuum. It has the overarching framework of law, and legal frameworks drive the way business can operate. So if we look at how business connects with law right from inception, when a company starts, they have to register the company. Then as they go on and they set up their products and they set up a service structure, they need to comply with the legal frameworks that will drive that. So their operations are being guided within the certain legal frameworks that the law adheres them to keep within. We're also looking at when you hire people, when you employ people, you have to ensure you're paying out the provident fund at the end of the month into the PF account of these people. So again, there is law that is viewing business and telling business how to behave. You also have a law in the marketplace where you have a market, you have a brand, you have your competition. You have to use fair means to compete in the marketplace. And when you look at your stakeholders who are the financial, stakeholders who have invested in your company, you have to report to these financial stakeholders what you're doing with their funds every year. So there is an annual report which you have to comply with, you have to publish it, and you have to talk about it. So when you look at law and management, they're very closely interlinked. And when you look at marketeers who are able to use the law and look at law to create sound business strategy, we know that understanding of law to a manager will give the competitive edge that is required in the marketplace. So let's dive into this now. A session like this it's a webinar, but if it's interactive and you're asking questions and we are answering those questions, it's going to become more exciting. So I look forward to getting the questions that come from you. The way I've structured this session for this evening is we're going to look at the intersectionality of law and marketing via the lens of three cases that we're going to see. So there's one case which is an international case, and there are two cases that happened in India. So let's move on and let's dive into this. Buckle up and stay alert as we get into this area. Okay. So let's try and understand how did business evolve, right? Right from the beginning. When did law jump in? When was it important that there was a legal system that said we need to protect the interest of certain people? So if you look at the agrarian society, people produced and they bartered or they supplied, right? From there, we moved to a mass production society where there was a lot of science and technology that came in. There were machines that came in. So we moved from an agrarian society to an industrial society. And today, from that industrial society, we have moved into a manufacturing society, right? We are getting into information, we are getting into knowledge, and we are using the knowledge and information to better our lives and better the lives of our customers, right? So at every stage, we see that law has jumped in and law is framing certain rules because they're looking at what's happening in the environment, and certain rules need to be framed so that they're protecting the different stakeholders that interact with businesses. So when we look at ourselves, we realize at every stage of this evolution, we have been consumers. So being a consumer is something very easily relatable to us, right? We have demand for so many goods. So who is a consumer? Consumers are really the end users of products and services. Now the products and services are varied, right? From electronics, food, clothes, housing, you name it, we are consumers at every end, right? And who are these producers? They're businesses or governments that are producing or supplying the product. Now, when we look at how we evolved, through economic development and how industries began to evolve, we'll also see that there was an evolution of the consumer themselves, right? So there was the consumer who came in at some point when the society turned and became an industrial society. So we now consume goods, but the way we have evolved is we have an Alexa or we have a Siri and we tell them to shop for us, right? So it's a long journey. And when we look at how laws are getting framed, there are data privacy laws that are coming in because the overarching theme is that you have to protect your people and the different stakeholders who are connected with business. So when you're looking at this entire journey where business is operating, there is an intersection of law which is very closely linked to it. And an understanding of law can give the edge or the competitive edge to a professional in the field of business as well as the legal field. So more on consumers. So as consumers, we consume products. But how do we understand what these products are? How do we learn about these products? Uh, of course, it's advertising, which is one way of telling us how to buy these products, consume it, what these products stand for. So, what is advertising? There are some people who say that ads should make you laugh, they should be entertaining. Therefore, entertaining means you have to engage the customer, right? The customer's attention is very short. There's a lot of distraction in the environment. Unless you're catching the consumer and the consumer is able to engage with your advertisement, they're not going to remember your brand, right? So you have to make them laugh. Some people say we should talk about advertisements which is about social justice. Some people should say that ads should take a stand. Some people say that brand should be political, not political. But at the crux of all this, what it definitely should do is talk about the brand, because otherwise you're wasting good money, good marketing money. So trying to understand what goes into an ad becomes very, very important. So when you're looking at marketing, and marketing is really trying to make selling redundant, it's really trying to get the customer to walk into your store and remember your product and ask for the product. We look at what marketing does. So what does marketing do? They do a lot of research. They look at consumers. They try to understand what consumers need. They look at the consumer's lifestyle. Because of the various ailments that are going around, they try and understand whether we can do some new R&D and bring out new drugs that will solve the problems they have. So there is research that is done with products, services, and consumers in mind. There is also a message. Now, once you've brought out the product, you have to tell the consumer about the product. Otherwise, the consumer is not going to know about this. So you have to put together a campaign, you have to advertise it, or you have to inform them. So there's a message, there's a campaign. But above all this, there is also a law that is looking at the best interest of people, looking at the best interest of the marketplace as well. So when
Dr.
you look
Supriya,
at,
there
yes,
is one problem. The gray, patch is still there. Can you just move your mouse, probably?
I'm not using the mouse actually. Wait,
Oh,
let me
okay.
just collapse
Some
this.
students are not able to even see the screen properly.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
Can you reshare the screen once? As in,
okay.
yeah, now in bits it has gone, but it's still there. It's in
Okay.
patches actually. Yeah.
Wait. Let me,
Yeah, you can just reshare it once more.
okay.
Yeah.
Let me just reshare my screen. Is this better?
It's still there.
I don't know why this is happening.
Yeah. It was not there in the dry run all of a sudden, but it is less now. So yeah, you can move your mouse. Probably it will go. You can move it
Okay, maybe I'll hide
again back.
floating meeting controls.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
this
please.
better?
It has gone now. You can hide
Okay.
those meeting. Yeah, it's gone now. It's gone now. Yeah,
Okay.
please
So
carry on.
that's what I needed to
Yeah,
do.
please carry
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
So coming back to this topic, so we looked at how marketing makes selling redundant. Marketing also tries to figure out the best product that they're going to sell. It also tries to understand how can you, how can you protect that product? How can you protect? So we have a brand name, we have a logo. These become trademarks of the brand. These become ways that consumers will recognize the brand. So you have uh, the brands marketing and advertising and creating an identity for themselves so they can connect with consumers. And you have the law that is coming in, and the law is attempting to protect the consumer. The law is also protecting the brand's product design as well as the trademarks. So, having said this, let's jump into the various cases that we have for today's discussion, which will give you a good understanding about the intersectionality of law and management, and in this case, law and marketing. So the first case that we are going to touch upon is, is what the title of this session will tell you about. Just do it with the law, and this is a tagline that you all would know about. It is the Nike tagline. So, what does this first case talk about? Your brand and its iconic trademark needs to be protected, and it needs to be done aggressively as well as very fast or swiftly. So, what is this case that we're talking about? We're talking about the case of Nike versus a brand called a bathing ape. So, a bathing ape is a Japanese brand, and Nike is the US brand. Now, this company, Bathing Ape, created shoes, and the shoes looked very, very close to the Nike shoes. So the designs almost looked like a copy. Now, they went to the US and set up shops in 2009, but Nike somehow managed to push them out and therefore decided not to take up any case against them. However, in 2023, that is this year in January, Nike realized that the brand had actually moved back into the US and they were very aggressively selling their shoes. Besides that, there were consumers who were lining up to buy the shoes. So Nike decided that they're going to sue this brand, and they sued the brand for copying some of its most famous shoes. So, what were the shoes in question? There was the Nike Air, and you can see on the screen here the close design comparison that's being done with the Nike Air shoe and Bathing Ape's Star Mid shoe. If you look at the Air Jordan shoes, you'll see even the design of the shoe, the color of the shoe, the low, ankle design of the shoe is also being copied. And you have the Air Jordan 1, which is a high shoe, which is again another copy. So Nike's has gone to the court for a trade infringement action against the uh, uh, Bathing Ape company. Now, to succeed in a trade infringement action, the owner of the original must show that their legally protectable mark has been used in an unauthorized manner. Such use also has to cause consumer confusion and result in financial harm. So Nike has gone ahead with filing this case because they know that they can actually prove this in the court of law. Now, Nike's complaint against this company falls under unfair competition, theft of trade secrets, as well as false representation of products. Now, what is it that BAPE can do? BAPE can use the law of laches, and laches basically says that Nike has waited too long to come forward with their claim, and it would be inequitable towards the company if the court enforced it. However, this case is still in court, and BAPE is trying to get Nike to withdraw the case. If you look at this, you see the intersectionality of marketing and law. The lesson to take away here is that Nike is a well-established company with a strong iconic trademark. Protecting the brand and one's trademark is important, and these actions should be done very fast and very aggressively without any delay. So it becomes clear that when you own a brand, or when you, as a company, you have access to a brand, it becomes important that you protect it, and the law is available there to protect it. So this is something that we learned from the first case. If you look at the second case,
Just to add
it's a very,
2 cents
yeah,
of mine, just to add 2 cents of mine. This
yeah,
case is one of those things which is now slowly becoming very famous even in India. If you see in the Indian context, you know, brands initially never used to be very, very cautious about their trademark. It was, because in India you can see Adidas, the name comes out in various forms, Adibas, and God knows what all.
right.
But
Yeah.
now the companies have started coming down very heavily because initially probably it was not a market. It was not in their market interest. But now a small restaurant also, you know, which is into business, wants to be very careful about trademarking, about copywriting things which are worth copywriting. And this is exactly how the trend is changing today. Even the fashion designers in India are so cautious about any design that they create. They want to get it copyrighted. Why are they doing it? Because in India we had many cases where there were the design similarities between famous designers also. So that's one of those reasons which the student has to understand that trademark, when big companies like Nike etc are involved, it's not just big companies, it's also other things also. And this infringement is one of those basic things which goes against the company's interest itself. So thank you so much for discussing that, ma'am. Let's move on. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was really nice. Coming from a lawyer, these statements are so helpful. So I bring the management aspect to this webinar, and Deepu, you bring the lawyer
Sure,
aspect. So I
sure,
think
sure.
we're a perfect team to be able to speak about this
Yes, yes,
case.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So the second case is an interesting case. There was no legal action here, but it really shows how a company, could understand the law and transgress it to be able to create an impact on their consumers. So the case that I'm talking about is the case of Pepsi versus Coca-Cola. So we know the cola wars have been on for years, and consumers really sometimes find it a waste of time, but sometimes they find it also very interesting that what did this company do and what did the other company do. Now, Pepsi was very smart in the World Cup of 1996. Coca-Cola became the official sponsors of the World Cup, and Pepsi was left behind because they could not strike the deal with the World Cup organizers. Now Pepsi was desperate because a lot of people watch cricket. We are a cricket crazed nation. We love the sport of cricket, which means that Pepsi would not have the occasion to be able to use this event to talk about their brand. So the company was very smart. It used ambush marketing and the knowledge of law to transgress all the legal aspects and come out a winner. So, what did they do? They didn't spend a single pie on sponsorship fees, and Coca Cola spent a large amount of money for that. Coca Cola also made they created a fantastic ad. People watched it. And when drinks on the field were called out, it was a Coca Cola brand that went out there. But what did Pepsi do? Pepsi was very smart. They signed up Sachin and they made advertisements with Sachin, with Vinod Kambli, Mohammad Azruddin, Bishop, Courtney Walsh, Dominic Cork, and even the umpire, Dickie Bird. So all these people appeared in the advertisement and they used the term nothing official about it. And the Pepsi ad was considered to be a complete winner because the advertisement even showed people drinking Pepsi and not touching the other drink. And of course, the name was mocked, but everybody knew it was a bottle with a red label on it. So we are looking at how the brand actually smartly, won this, became the sponsor of a mega event without even paying the exorbitant fees that a sponsorship needs. How did they do it? They were careful. They did not use any markers of their competitor. Coca-Cola, of course, spent huge fees to be the official sponsors of the 1996 World Cup. But like I earlier told you, Pepsi won this round because they fared very well. So we have, sorry, yeah. So this is a case that tells us that the knowledge of law is important. When you're creating a business strategy or you're making a marketing strategy or putting it together or designing it, understanding how you can look at the law and not do anything wrong, but still make the connection with your consumers becomes important. And everybody remembers Pepsi and the World Cup of 1996 because of how they, designed their marketing strategy. The next one is a lesson or a case number 3, where we are going to look at a case of honest comparative advertising. And this is a case that Havells filed against Eveready. And the case is known as the Who's the Brightest of Them All. So this is, I'm talking about 2015. You all were probably very young children, the students who are here, and you all were in school. But it was also the time that the government came up with this theme called Ujala. So what was Ujala attempting to do? It was attempting to change all the LED lights on our streets, and also reducing the light bill in houses by encouraging people to go and exchange their old bulbs for LED lights. Now, because of this push by the government, suddenly the LED industry saw a huge boom. So the LED bulb sales, which was at 0.1% in 2014, jumped up to 15% higher in 2015, and it was projected to increase to 60% in 2020. Now, this is a huge opportunity in the marketplace, and all brands who are in the FMCG electrical business are going to jump in, because this is a big opportunity that they can use for their growth. So private companies began marketing LED lights. Now, every company will come in and they will make a marketing pitch to their consumers and hope their consumers remember them when the time of purchase comes. So there was Philips, and Philips is known for innovation. Their tagline is innovation and you, and they use the entire concept of innovating with the customer to create memory in the customer's mind. There was Havells, of course, that came in and they talked about delivering satisfaction. Delivering satisfaction not only because your bill will come down, but also delivering satisfaction because you're doing good. And there was Eveready, and Eveready came in with a very clear value proposition, which was, we promise to give you superior value. So in an LED light, the superior value is going to be better light, right? All the three of them decided to advertise, and let's look at a few advertisements and try and understand what happened in the marketplace. So the first ad that I'll play for you is the Philips light ad that came out, which talked about innovation and you. Okay, let's take a look.
Did you see the match, baby?
CFL?
IPL. CFL. Baby, I almost...
मुझे पता था हमें अंधेरे में खाना पड़ेगा। फिलिप्स एलईडी? लेकिन मैंने तो
चेंज कर दिया।
इतना महंगा?
पर इससे लंबा चलेगा।
आप पूरे घर के बदलो।
अब CFL फ्यूज होने का मतलब फिलिप्स एलईडी लगाने का चांस, जो देता है 50% सेविंग्स 15 साल तक। फिलिप्स एलईडी, चेंज करो, सेव करो।
Innovation in you. Philips.
Okay, so this is the first pitch by this well-known brand that we all know, who's been around for many years, which is Philips, of course, followed by what Havells did. So with Havells, we all know they were a company that used to create products only for the business markets. So when we talk about Havells, they came into the area of creating wires that would not get burnt. They were wires that electricians could, install in houses and have a safer house. And when they came out with the LED light, they talked about the bill being smaller. And because the bill is smaller, then your heart can be larger, right? So there is this Indian habit of putting off lights. So we put off lights because we feel our bills will go up. If there's a light outside the door, we feel we should switch it off because it's going to, push up our bill. So the Indian consumer is a very value-seeking consumer. And the insight that Havells picked up was this habit of people switching off lights, right? And Havells used that to make the tagline, "जब बिल छोटा हो जाता है, तो बिल बड़ा हो जाता है." And let's look at what they created.
कहाँ हो तुम? अंधेरा हो रहा है। आ जाओ, जहाँ पे लाइट्स ऑन है वही।
जब बिल छोटा हो जाता है तो दिल बड़ा हो जाता है। हैवेल्स एलईडी, बिजली बचाइए, रोशनी फैलाइए।
So we're again looking at Havells talking about spreading light by reducing your bill and connecting with the emotions of the consumers. From Havel, we moved on to Eveready. Now, Eveready is no strange brand to us. We know they've been in the battery business for more than 100 years. And they decided to get into the LED lights. And they looked at the marketplace and realized that everybody had a pitch that they were making. Everybody said nobody's talking about brightness and price, and let's make that the superior value that we are offering, right? And of course, they had already had Akshay Kumar as their brand ambassador, and he was the person who came into the fray to advertise the Eveready LED light, which is the brightest LED in the marketplace. Let's take a look.
लंदन से कब लौटोगे पापा?
एक हफ्ते बाद बेटा.
But you said 10 days.
10 days?
Actually it is 14 days.
14?
हम सब
क्या?
चलें.
ये खुशियाँ बस यही तो है. Eveready LED से ज्यादा bright. Eveready LEDs, the brightest.
So other than, advertising how happiness is the only thing brighter than the light that a Eveready light gives out, the brand also came out with a print ad, right? And their value that they were offering here again was how they are giving you much better value with better brightness at a lower price. And the ad in a corner actually lined up all the competition. They lined up the different brightness wattage of these bulbs. They talked about the lumens that each bulb offered and the price range. Now, this was something that did not sit well with Havells, and Havells decided to go to court against them. So Havells sued Eveready. Havells contended that the ad was misleading and disparaging because it requested the consumers to compare only two features while discarding all the other essential features like power, usage, life of the bulb. Havells approached the Delhi High Court seeking a permanent injunction against the ad. The question before the court was whether a comparative ad must necessarily compare all the features in order to be an honest advertisement. While Havells said that the ad was misleading because it emphasized only on two factors, Eveready responded that brightness and prices are most essential elements and hence easily comparable. And what do you think that the court decided? The court decided in favor of Eveready. So, as per the court, the key highlights of the case mention that the test of honest comparative advertising is whether a reasonable audience would take this ad seriously. Failure to compare all the features would not in itself amount to a dishonest advertisement, and a misleading ad must deceive the public and impact their economic behavior. So, all these aspects supported Eveready, and therefore the Delhi High Court held that Eveready's ad was honest, even though comparative in nature and limited to only certain features. So the lesson that this tells us is that the law provides, knowledge of the law can provide an edge for creating campaigns as well. And in this case, we saw an honest comparative advertising campaign that did very well for Eveready's light business in LED. So that really brings us to the end of the PPT that I had for you all, and we can jump into questions if you have any.
Yes, I have some questions by students. So yeah, they are generic questions, but I think you'll be able to answer. So one of the students is asking that when a student is learning law and also marketing, so will they also be given projects, real life projects where they'll also understand the nuances of marketing? So by the time they go and read law relating to marketing, they'll be able to relate both of them. And how much of marketing in depth is taught to them?
Okay, so, in the first term, when we look at the BBA LLB cohort, we teach a subject called Principles of Management. And in the second semester, we go on to understand marketing. Now, the kind of, exercises and activities we have the pedagogy that we use at the law school are a little different. They're very interactive. So students are also given little, they take a few simulations online to understand. In the previous class, I remember we were doing a concept on unconscious bias that comes in with consumers, with employees, with different stakeholders. So there is a simulation that you can take at the Harvard Law School. All the students sat and took that test, and they tried to understand where they fit in terms of an unconscious bias percentage. And it's interesting to see that because it is objective. It's also it's also telling you these little biases that come into your mind. And if you look at management, it's very interdisciplinary. It brings in psychology, it brings in sociology, it brings in economics. It also tries to understand what is the right strategy to put together. So when we look at the pedagogy, the student will do marketing projects. So we will have students going into, the retail stores. I may ask you to speak to a few consumers and try and understand why they buy certain types of products. We will do dipstick surveys to try and understand, what are the insights that come out when consumers consume certain products. We'll also try and understand how can you compare pricing across products. So the marketing and management are subjects that are taught with a lot of activities, a lot of questionnaires that you take, data that you pull out, and it all relates to you as a manager in future. So trying to understand all that comes into the pedagogy of our courses. I hope I answered that question.
Yeah, one of other student is asking that if I take a BBA LLB and later on in my life, if I feel like becoming an entrepreneur, what all is being taught to me in this course of marketing, will that help me a lot? It's a very, obvious question. But yeah, I hope you can give some examples also and, tell them that how does it help?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll also answer this question because I have some of those stories in my mind also with my students, but I'll let you answer and then I'll join in.
Yeah. So, being an entrepreneur, that's a drive that comes from within. And let me tell you, the knowledge of business and the knowledge of law will only enhance the drive that you have. So so the BBA subjects that you will do management, you will do, and in the later years, we will have electives on strategic management, strategic marketing, where you will do management decision making at a higher level. So these are electives that you can opt for in your later years, because not everybody would like to do marketing related subjects, but the ones who, or management related subjects, but the ones who are keen on doing it will get the opportunity to do it. We also have HR, we also have OB, and all these subjects give you a good understanding of business and the workplace within a business. So I think a BBA LLB program will only enhance the drive that you have to be an entrepreneur. And I think when you're ready to be one, I think you'll do very well with that knowledge. I also know a couple of entrepreneurs who did their BBA LLB and then became entrepreneurs, and they're running very successful businesses now. So I hope that answers your question.
And I'll add on to it. I'll tell you my own example. I was a litigator and I was into corporate litigation, and there was a senior of mine from NLS Bangalore. His name was Sachin Malan. He was the one who started with the coaching prep for law schools. And I remember he had no other degree, but he was just a BA LLB. And he started the business. He started it so well that I remember when a huge edu conglomerate, acquired the business. In the meeting, I still remember that when we all were sitting together, it were our opinions which mattered a lot to them. And, they would take note. And believe me, we were working with all IIM Bangalore and IIM Ahmedabad postgraduates, and we were all just graduate kids. They were all very elder to us. But then when we used to give some ideas out, they would listen to us, and they were like, "Wow." And I remember long back in that year, we were doing marketing when we did not even knew the M of marketing because we were BA LLB. But then the law school life was as such that we were promoting our own fests. So we have our fest, right? So we would go out for, we'll market our fest. We will go and reach out to, for sponsorships. We were doing such kind of things, and it was a kind of ownership which was given to us. Now I get happy seeing students of BPLLB doing that right in the classroom and understanding, what professor was teaching, and they are dealing deep into it. And I can assure you that a student who does understand all these things would be a better person. So in our campus, we had a partner of a great law firm who also happens to be my senior, who was here. And then when he was speaking about how BBA LLB can be put, because at the end of the day, both of them are lawyers, and they do not look into it that whether you are a BLLB or whether you are a BBA LLB before placing you. But then he made a point which was very useful to our students in the campus, where he said that when it comes to recruitment, we do not take, cognizance of the fact that what you are a BLLB or a BPLLB. But once you are into the campus, once you are into the corporate, and once you start working, if you have managerial ability, if you have marketing skills, these are add-on to all other things. So at a law firm, what you could do, you can help us out with marketing of law firm, though it is not done. Law firms cannot market them, but yes, there are ways of doing it. How a law firm markets itself, it publishes its articles at, various forums. It publishes, it kind of proves its intellectual metal. Now, who would get it done? How would they be visible? Now, search engine optimization is also something, which is a part of marketing itself, the digital marketing. Anyone who knows those things, he has an advantage, right? He'll be promoted because that is one wing where they are hiring people from outside and they're paying them for the same. If a lawyer who knows all these things in a law firm, his value is more. And that's what he said. He can even be made a partner because at the end of the day, he's bringing in revenue from other resources and from his own mind. So he is an entrepreneur in his speaking. You get
Yes.
that? That's basically those advantages of a BPA LLB. And that was a great observation which he gave, and our students were all fired up. They were like, "Wow!" And they were like, "Wow, we have to take our courses, really seriously." So that's something, which I had to add on. Moving on further with questions, there are a few questions. Like one of the student was asking about some projects. Can you just shed light on some specific projects which students are doing under you in this course currently? And something interesting that they are doing in the very first year since you are teaching them, and something that you can just remember because they are just one semester down, our own students.
Yeah. So our students will take marketing in the next semester. So in the first term, we offer principles of management. So let me tell you about one project that they did. This was an assignment. So they were given this brief that they will go through, each one of them picked a different company. So we have 120 students in the cohort. So there were 120 students who read 120 annual reports. And in the annual report, they looked at the shareholder, the statement made to the shareholder by the CEO. So what is the CEO's address talking about? What is the growth pattern that the company is looking at? Based on that, now this brief connected with the topic on organization structures. So within a company, there are organization structures, and there are different ways that companies create organization structures. A structure that is relevant when a company starts its operation cannot be relevant after 5 or 10 years when they're growing, right? So what they were told to do is identify what are the growth areas in the CEO's address. Based on what you can see there, and after you've gone through all that the company is doing, how many branches do they have, what kind of businesses are they in, create an organization structure and justify why you feel that this organization structure works. Now, this was an exercise which was a project. Students called up, people in companies. They even called up their parents. And for the first time, they understood very clearly what their parents do at work and what kind of companies they work in to try and understand why organization structure is so important, right? And then they put together an organization structure and then they presented it in class. So we are really looking at projects which are very practical. There are ways of organization structure assignment being given saying create an organization structure of a company. But over here in BITS Law School, it's not just that. You have to study, you have to do the research, you have to talk to people, and then you suggest a structure and say why it's going to work. Now, as a part of that same chapter, we also did a case where there was this company that was setting up a resort on an island, and after 20 years, the resort owner is doing so well that they moved to different parts of the country. And after that, they're doing even so much better that they're buying cruise ships, and they're having people sail around the country, around the world in those ships taking holidays. So I told them at every stage, create an organization structure. So the understanding of how an organization structure gets built becomes very, very clear. So these are certain projects. In the last term, we didn't have any projects where the students went out of college. But because it was just a principles of a management course that they were doing. But going forward in the next term for marketing, there will definitely be projects where they will try and understand insights from consumers on certain types of products. That will be a part of the assignment that will be given for the chapter on consumer behavior.
Great.
Yeah.
So we have a question from Akshat. There are a lineage of questions which he has sent me. So I'll just go one by one. Where he's asking, the question is not related to the course, but from Coke and Pepsi case, can we also take that a good marketing attack can also generate viable publicity?
I wouldn't call it an attack because, it also, I would call it, so in these, in these cola wars, you have brands that compare their products and they present it to customers. So you have Colgate and you have Pepsodent doing it. You have Horlicks and you have Complan doing it. You have car companies that do it, and then you have the cola companies that do it, right? So I wouldn't call it an attack because it's a little adversarial when you talk about something attacking something else. But I would say it's like you won this round and I'm going to win the other round. But what really helped Pepsi was the knowledge of law. So at no point did they break any rules. Did they share any information or put any information about Coca-Cola? But everybody knew. And when you're interacting with your consumer, where the consumer is also in this little game that you're playing with your competitor and the consumer also knows when you use a tagline like there's nothing official about it, that they're talking about the fact that they are not the official sponsors, but they're still gaining a lot of momentum through this type of advertising. So I would say the knowledge of law really helped Pepsi in this case to not break any rules.
I will add to it. I remember this war happening where, there were many ads which used to come. And there was a specific ad which I remember, which was not in India, because in India there was a law which was called as MRTP, Monopolistic and Restrictive Trade Practices Act, which was taught to us. And by the time we were graduating, and there was a new law called as Competition Act, which came into being because we were corporate lawyers, so we were handling all these things. And there was a specific commission called as a competition commission, which was formed. And it was basically to see to it that competition is done in a very fair manner. In India, it is practiced as such. And Coke and Pepsi do not do it just in India. They have been doing it universally, and their ads have been always been called as ad wars. There was this one ad which came in the European countries during the Premier League, the Football Premier League. That's when they come out with. And I remember there was an ad where a small kid, is carrying 2 cans of Coke. And they have shown it. It's like Coke, and he's walking, and all of a sudden he reaches a can dispenser, and keeps those 2 Cokes. He stands on the top of it, and then he reaches out to the Pepsi button. He hits it, and then there's a Pepsi can which comes up, and then there is no dialogue. There is just one music, and it says "Joy of Pepsi." Now, see, this is something which will not run in India. Because in India, this is called as a monopolistic practice and something where you are using, you're abusing your power, etc. So in India also, when I was in law school, I remember there were many ads to go on each other like, this. So when I was in school, this ad came up. I remember nothing official about it. I remember
Yeah.
that's how they were doing it. But in India, there are laws where they will come and stop you. And they say you cannot do that.
Right.
I'll tell you the most recent thing, which in the morning I was discussing with a friend. So there is this movie which has released called a Salar, Prabhas movie. Now, Shah Rukh Khan, I know he's a great star, but I've seen him doing many monopolistic practices. His production company, I don't know. I'm openly taking the name and I'm saying that because there's a case which we have been taught where one of his movie was getting released. I don't know the name of the movie. And there was Ajay Devgan's movie called as Son of Sardar, which was getting released. And, these guys are very powerful. So what they do is they would go to the PVR and say that we will not release your movie. We will not release our movie here if you do not give us the entire screen time, and it was kind of restricting the other players releasing their own early morning. And then Ajay Devgan and his production company, they took this production company to the competition commission, and the competition commission had to step in and say that no, this is a restrictive practice, you cannot do that. You cannot do such kind of, you are abusing your power of domination, because they could dominate the market. Early in the morning today, when I woke up, I saw the same thing, that the producers of Salar are now behind two cinemas, PVR and I guess Mirage Cinemas, and they have pulled out their movies and they've said that you're not giving us enough screen time. So, now doing this is an option, or going to the competition commission and challenging it is another option which you, and believe me, if you do that, you will get resolution to it. Now, if you see a person is called as a star, he has a star value. Yet, if you see everywhere, you will see Donkey, that movie getting released.
Yeah.
Marketing is that like. And, in India, that is what is marketing. He is a star, but he has to promote his movie like anything. He's shouting from the top of it, while the other movie is also doing the same thing. And these are the wars where lawyers come in,
Yeah.
and they work with marketing professionals. They both sit together, they both strategize, they both have to foresee that what may go wrong. And that's exactly where, this combination has become so potently, one of the most sought out, career options of students, because students right from the law school have been observing all these things. I remember when I was in the school, I used to observe these things, that what is happening. Are there not enough bodies in our country to regulate it? What is the government doing? And believe me, we are living in a country today which is actually very active in terms of law, litigation, and very empowered individuals are running all these organizations. There is something which I want to tell the students also here. It's called as, ASCII, the Advertising Standard Council of India.
Yes.
Each one of you here, if you see a misleading ad, you can go take a snapshot and file an online complaint against a misleading ad. So that's also something professors, Professor Supriya are teaching students, that you cannot mislead how a marketing is done, how ethically you have to market. I remember, there was one product which was calling itself the best. So a person questioned it, that how are you calling yourself the best? How are you? What is the meaning of the word best? And believe me, they had to remove that word, because one of the cases which Professor discussed here was about everyday, everyday, which showed that how we are best or how we are good. You have to show it. You have to quantify things. That's what law is all about. You have to explain things. That's exactly how it goes. So excellent.
Yeah, in fact, now that you're speaking about it, we had a senior partner who came and spoke to the students, and he's a senior partner who's doing very well in a very well-known law firm. I won't take the name here, but he mentioned how marketing and business development is something that he does on an everyday basis. Because working in the law firm needs you to go out and bring clients into the firm, and also try and understand the kind of image that you're creating in the marketplace. So marketing and law are very, very closely connected. And they interact with each other, they complement with each other, and they help businesses and as well as lawyers make very sound strategic decisions. Yeah.
Now there is a question, Professor Supriya, you will be very interested to answer. It is being asked by one of our students and one of our attendees. He says, Professor Supriya, you have taught at various business schools and prestigious institutions, and now you are teaching some law students. Can you share your experience of teaching both these, both these students? And, they're asking you which was the best experience, but you can avoid it because for a teacher, everything is a great experience. But then, what has been your experience teaching business students as well as law students?
Yeah. So with business students, I think the focus is more to look at different types of, case studies, look at how businesses operating, what kind of decision making they're doing. And we use a lot of cases from the Harvard, website to try and understand, how to simulate or how to create a near real life experience for the student so that the student can understand how decision making is made. With a law student, I think there's an edge. So don't ask me which is better because I think all the students are great.
Yes.
And it's so nice and it's so exhilarating to walk into a classroom and do a class. But I do see that student of law has an edge over just a plain BBA course because now you have an understanding of the legal framework within which your decision can be made. So I think that is wonderful to see in a law school. So that's my answer to you. I can't hear you, Deepu. You're mute. You're on mute.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I just saw it. Another student is asking, I'm interested in studying law, but not practicing it. I want to join my family business. So should I do just a BBA or should I, do a LLB? I think we have already answered this where Professor Supriya was also very clear on this one thing that, it just gives you an edge, but Professor, would you like to add something to it?
Yes, it certainly will give you an edge. Like I told you, right from the point of inception of a company, where you have to register the company, and when you look at doing the different business functions, which is hiring people, running your operations, marketing your product, getting the finance for your companies, you have to connect with law at every stage, right? So a knowledge of law will always give you that edge. So my suggestion would be if you really want, to do a course that is very holistic and interdisciplinary, go for law because it will give you a good edge in the in understanding how you will go about your business.
We have another student who is asking us when we talk about interdisciplinarity, law itself is an interdisciplinarity course where you are teaching us not just laws relating to constitution or criminal law, you are also teaching us corporate law. With that, why should we study principles of management and courses relating to business management? Because if we are being taught, if we are being taught the same, are you guys teaching us from the perspective of a lawyer or a business student?
So when we do these courses, we do the basic courses for business management. And, in the later years, there will be strategic marketing, strategic decision making, strategic management courses as well, which will be offered as an elective. But if you want to understand how businesses, what is important in businesses, how business decision making is made, how businesses have evolved. So when you look at how the evolution of business has happened, you realize in the times where mass production was the focus and there were these big factories that had discovered, there was science and technology discovering big machines, the factories brought them in. So you look at the case of Ford Motors. There were lots of people working there, and they would be working so much that they would fall down after a point in time. They would be exhausted. So the company itself would hire 4 times more people than they actually needed because they knew people will not survive. They would be so difficult and such difficult times that they would leave the job. Now that evolved to a point where they began to look at people as the most important, resource, and trying to understand what is going to get people motivated. Now, in law, you will understand the laws, but will you have an understanding of how business evolved? Will you have an understanding of what are the types of functions that businesses, need to have in place to be able to run a good business? So these two are complementary. You need to understand what happens in business. You need to understand what happens in the realm of finance. You need to understand what certain numbers on a balance sheet mean. You need to understand what pricing is all about, how distribution is done, and all that understanding can only come when you learn management related subjects. So therefore, it becomes important to study both.
There's another interesting question. I don't know how to ask you this, but someone is asking me how much of mathematics is involved in marketing, and do we have to study specifically marketing subjects where a bit of mathematics is also involved, or can we just ignore mathematics completely? I would have asked this if I was in standard, 11th. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the first year, your marketing course will not have mathematics. Uh, but if you take up, if you take up advanced management subjects later on, then mathematics, it will not come in as mathematics. It will be more of data crunching, because you're trying to look at patterns, you're looking. But now you have Excel that does that to you, does that for you. So you just need to understand how to use Excel. So it's not like you will be using those numbers. But certainly in year one, in marketing, there's no mathematics.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Another question again, they are more or less the same kind of questions which I'm getting, so I'm not taking few of the questions. Now about a few of those questions which was asked. One was about how. Yeah, that's the same question, I guess. So I'll just ignore it because we have already covered it about running a business and all. Uh, but I think probably you'll be able to add on to it. There is a student who's asking, I want to take over my family business and run it. I just think that law is going to just add up to it. And being a marketing professor, what is your advice to me that if he is a bit confused, that he's thinking, should I do BBA, MBA and take over my family business, or should I do BBA, LLB and MBA and take over his family business? So you can give the answer, and then I'll also share my 2 cents on it.
Yeah. So I think doing a BBA, LLB, there are people who have done it, who do a BBA, LLB, and then do an MBA. And that gives them a different edge. A lot of companies today look at law professionals, a degree with law, because they're looking at compliance, which is so important in today's world. And they're looking at an MBA degree as well. So I know people who have been hired by the top-notch, consulting companies like McKinsey. I know looks at a few students who have done a BBA, LLB, and a MBA program. I know there are, in the current cohort at ISB Hyderabad itself, there are people who have come with a BBA, LLB degree, and they're doing an MBA. So whether you should do a BBA and an MBA, or do a BBA, LLB, and an MBA, I don't know how to answer that, but I do think having knowledge of the law gives you an edge, helps you take sound decisions, and that's what you need to do in a business. Decision making is the key to running a good business, the right kind of decisions, right? And when you have an understanding of law, the chances are that you will make the right types of decisions. You will not break any laws. Yeah, so that's my answer to you.
And adding from my lawyer's, point of view, what I could tell you is that in this 5 years, what a student does is basically taking decisions. Right from the morning when you get up, to attend a class or not is a big decision. To create what project is a decision. How to handle the stress is a decision. With that, a lot of other things which we do in this 5 years creates a better us, a better version of us. And that had been my life. Believe me, it has been, there have been so many changes in my entire persona. So when I took the decision of leaving corporate law and joining, a new prep industry business as handling it pan India, I had no clue that, I'm young, will I be able to do it? Because there at the law firm, I was, associate, who was daily having experience of presenting cases between the in front of Supreme Court, Delhi High Court, National Commission. And then I was thinking, what am I doing here? All of a sudden, if I change it, what? But then that decision was also taken by me. I was a BA LLB, but something inside me knew that, I can do the other things also. And all of a sudden, I was being placed as the national head of that product. And there were so many things where I was deciding just when I was what, 24, 25. That's when I was deciding things that to do or not to do. And
Lovely.
I was deciding on catch lines. I still remember we had come out with a t-shirt for students, and we used to distribute t-shirts to students because we used to do a lot of quizzes also. So it was a prep business. So I remember giving the quote also that, the quote which we came out was "sue you later." Like we say, "see you later," let's sue you later. And
Okay.
that became a rage. And believe me, whenever we were doing all these things, no, we didn't study marketing, but the law course was as such that it built in us a level of critical thinking, a level of foreseeability where we were able to predict things. So just by going into a class, interacting with students, we used to know their lingo, the way they behave, and we were doing stuff which was called as business administration, but then it had already come into us, right? So my only advice to you is you know yourself better. If you want to do a MBA or a BBA, do you have those requisite skills or not is the most important thing, because MBA is also a very prestigious degree. It requires a lot of sitting down and working and, understanding, and like ma'am said, taking decisions, because that course has now evolved so much that the course is not just about sitting and reading a book by, Mr. Kotler. It involves a lot of other things. What Professor just said about the ad was marketing, it is much more intense. It is much more intense given the digital marketing now coming up. The landscape of that entire course has changed. So you have to understand that what you are doing, and where you do want to pitch in your family business as just a marketer or as someone. So in a business administration, there are so many facets. It's about finance, it's about marketing, it's about HR, it's about so you may have any of those skills, right? But if you have all of them, then you become an entrepreneur. If you can do all of these, you're good at finance, you're good at marketing, you're good at HR, then you become an entrepreneur. Then you can do everything. If you do not have, then you have to hire people, right? So, you have to understand that. But when you're in law school, you kind of are doing everything, because you will have to study a bit of maths also. So this goes to the person who was asking us about mathematics. Though marketing might not have mathematics, but in law, there are certain mathematics parts also. It's called as business mathematics if you do BBA LLB. I remember even in law courses, there are at times maths which is taught to you. I remember I belong to a family where my brother was an IITian, so I was very poor at maths. But then, I remember studying maths in law school also and hating myself that why is this being taught to us? It was in Mohammedan law, Islam law. So the division of property and all other things, it has got mathematics involved in it. And we were even being taught all those things. And we had to study. So you cannot escape mathematics, because those are those basics which you should know, and you should read those basics also, right? So you have to understand this, and you have to answer to yourself and say, okay, this is exactly how I'm going to be. Now, there is one last question which I'll take, Professor Supriya, before I, wind up the session. And since I've been talking a lot about digital marketing, there is a student who's also asking me about the same, that how much of digital marketing is taught in marketing as a course to lawyers, as a law student.
So we will introduce digital marketing, but how to use digital marketing is not something that we'll do in the marketing management course. So it is one of the forms of promotion, and a very important one. It's also one of the forms that allows you to measure, how people are responding, how many people saw, how many people liked, how many people reposted, how many people shared, right? Which you can't do in any other form of promotion, like in print or television. You don't really know what kind of numbers, saw your ad or looked at your ad. But in digital marketing, it has that edge. So we will definitely do some aspect of digital marketing when we do the chapter on promotions. But we are not going to, do digital marketing as a course itself in marketing management. But marketing management is a very, very exciting course. This is something I should tell you. Understanding how companies decide to create the product, how they decide to price it, where are they going to sell it, right? How do they figure out how they're going to advertise the product? Now, it's not just, deciding to sell something and advertising it. There's a lot of understanding behind the scenes, lot of understanding of what consumers want, what consumer insights you can connect with, what can you connect with in terms of even what the brand stands for. So all these are things that you do in the back end, and that's why you make selling redundant. So a good marketer is somebody who can create that image that will just get the customer into the store asking for that product. So marketing is certainly a very exciting field and a great subject to study.
Great. So there is this final question which I want to take. Professor, if you want, I don't think you would be answering it, but then again, if you want to add, you are welcome. Urvi Gautam is asking us. I would like to ask how doing CA with my 5-year course would help as a LLB. My dear Urvi, it's impossible. If you ask me, I want to be very pragmatic and answer it to you, because CA itself is a profession and law is also a profession. These two professions require a lot of your time, a lot of your energy to sit down and study very properly. Both of these require articleship as well as internships. So there are people who have done that, but they have not done it with the 5-year program, because 5-year program is about getting into the classroom, sitting, and having a proper attendance and learning it. So there are some people who do LLB the way it is done, and then they become a CA. In the same breath, I want to also say that there's another course called as company secretary, which many of my juniors and many of my students have done that. It's comparatively easier, though it is also not very easy for you to do it. As in, you will have to really slog it out if you want to do CS and law both, because CS kind of around 50% is law. So there are my juniors and my students, as I said, who have done that. They were very tired by the time they finished, but then they have done that. So yeah, that's how it is. Doing CA with a 5-year program is not what I would recommend to any student, because your sanity will be at stake if you do that. Yeah.
Yeah, and there are a lot of case readings. There are readings that go into 60 pages, 40 pages. When you look at readings in law, trying to do that, plus all the other subjects that you have, and trying to do a chartered accountancy will be very, very difficult. I mean, it's not recommended. Plus, it's like stretching you too thin. So do a law degree later on after you do your chartered accountancy, if that's what your interest is. But it's
like I
not
said,
do both.
Yeah, like I said, there have been people who have done that, but they have not done law in a serious mode. When I say serious mode, like a 5-year program where you have to attend classes, you have to maintain attendance, there are project submissions, there are moot courts, there are mediation competitions, there are so many things which are happening. As in, I've seen my students wait here in the campus till 8 o'clock at some time, and they are finishing their work. So with that, CA also requires the same kind of commitment. So no, I will not recommend that, because I would want you healthy. So don't even think about that adventure. Yeah, that's not recommended. So yeah, we have come to the end of a wonderful session with Professor Supriya. Thank you so much for sparing your time. I'm very thankful to you, because I know you have been very busy. You have been taking our interviews, for which we are very thankful to you from our heart. And we have also been checking papers and doing all other stuff. Thank you so much. And thank you for sparing your time and investing time. Thanks to all the attendees who have been with us till the end of this session. Thanks to my teammates at the admissions office for arranging this. And good night and happy weekend to each one of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deepu. It was a pleasure to be here. And, thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak to the
It's
students.
always a pleasure to host you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all the students who attended, all the attendees. Look forward to interviewing you if you do apply for the, for put in your applications. All the
Yes,
best.
a word of advice to all of you. Please, we are about to close the first round and the interviews are on. The second round will only begin in January. So you can get in touch with our admission office for any admission related queries. I have not picked up any question today related to admission because that is one of the rules which we follow, that in these sessions, we do not take admission queries. Okay. So if you have any doubt, do get in touch with us at the admissions office and we'll be more than happy to help you out. Okay. Thank you. Thank you and good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.